It's almost in screensaver mode, so a little moment. There it goes. What's up everyone, my name is Cas and in this video I'm gonna talk about shutter speed, aperture and ISO and why it's important to know about these things and what's the relation between the three. So, without any further ado, let's roll that intro. So guys, before we begin, I wanted to say something. As you can see, if you noticed from the previous video, if you haven't watched the previous video, up here, and the link will be down in the description. If you noticed, right now I have another computer screen. This is an ultra wide curve monitor, and it's an IPS screen. And why I bought, if you guys are interested, I can make a video about why I bought it, why it's interesting to invest in something like a good screen. So, with that said, then the next thing, please like this video if you find it helpful. Please subscribe if you don't want to miss any future updates. And yeah, that's the things I wanted to say. So, your camera has a few settings that you can change while on manual mode. That are shutter speed, aperture and ISO. So I'm gonna explain what each thing does and in relation to one another. So I've shot some previews to make it a bit more visual, so it's better to, it's easier to understand. So first, the relation to each other. One cannot exist without the other. They all have a little bit of a relationship with each other, so it's like a triangle. Because if you don't change the environment or don't change the lighting, if you change one setting, it's inevitable you have to change another setting. So, and then you have to make a decision between which setting you're gonna choose. And today is the little point, so you have a starting idea of which setting to change when. Or if you have a specific effect in mind for your photo, then which setting or settings do you need to change? These settings can be changed on most phones when you set them to manual mode. But this is not about a video on how to use your phone in manual mode, so that's for another video. It's for your camera, even if it is a point and shoot or a DSLR. So why would you shoot in manual mode? Automatic mode is a wonderful thing. The camera guesses what it needs to be and averages out every setting. So it's a good average, it's a really good starting point. So if you have no clue on how to set your settings or where you have to be, then set your camera to auto mode and take a picture and look on the settings which the camera chose. So that's a starting point for you where you can work from if you want a specific effect. And putting your camera in manual mode can provide some benefits. You have more control over the photo that you're gonna take. So if you want a specific blurred background or a really sharp background, or if you want moving objects to stand still, or if you want to have motion blur or anything, really low lighting, or there are a thousand different situations for your settings. So to break it in little parts, first we're gonna talk about shutter speed. The shutter speed is how long the sensor is exposed to light. So, to make it really simple, if you close your eyes, open them really long, there's a lot of light coming in. If you open them really short, there's not much light getting in. So you have a less visual of your surroundings. For the camera, it is the same. The sensor has a specific sensitivity to light. If you open the sensor really short, there's a little moment of light getting in. If you open the shutter really long, then there's more light coming in, but also more time for motion blur. So the first example I have you right now is with a long shutter speed when I'm jumping. I want to show it right here. So that's really blurry, so you can't even see it's me really. That jump was done with a shutter speed of half a second. So the sensor was exposed to light half a second. The black background is fine because that's an object, it's a building, it's standing still. If you increase your shutter speed, so if I increase it to 1/200th of a second, then you get this. So now you can see the difference. And if you have a fast moving object, you can freeze time. So, but if you noticed in the photo, my feet are still a little bit blurry. If you want to increase that effect, you still need to bump up your shutter speed. So it needs to be much faster, around 1/400th of a second. That's how your shutter speed works and what it affects. And then we have your aperture. Your aperture is essentially like the iris of your eye. If you're in a really dark environment or room, your iris is getting really big, so there's much light coming in. And if you're looking directly in the sun, your pupils gets really small because there's really an intensive amount of light that's coming in. Essentially, your aperture is exactly the same thing, but it also has another effect that your eyes don't have, but a lens does. So for another example, if you have your aperture really wide, as much open as your current lens can. So the first example is with an aperture of 4. So like right now, you can see the little piece in the front, the car is in focus and the background is really blurry. If you close your aperture, so there's less light coming in, you have to change the other settings. Remind to still have the same amount of light coming to the sensor. If you close your aperture, so there's less light coming in, then you get this effect. I didn't change my point of focus. The focus was still in the foreground on the car, but now the building is also almost in focus. This was done with f/22, and if you zoom in you can go even further, but this was f/22. So the thing, if you want a blurry background, like a photograph of somebody, like a portrait, you should want a blurry background, because it's not about the person. It's all about the person and not about the background. So you set your aperture really wide. But if you want to photograph a landscape, you're gonna squeeze down that little bit of light and you close your aperture. So you have a really long focus point. So you can make an awesome shot. One moment. A little bit of drink. So then we're left with ISO. ISO affects the sensitivity to light of the sensor of your camera. So if you really have a really low ISO, it's less sensitive to light than if you have a really high ISO. But ISO is a digital enhancement, so it's not just a moment. If you have really low lighting, you bump up your ISO and it's a perfect photo. That doesn't work. The basic thing is you want to keep your ISO as low as possible, without affecting the effect you want with your picture. It creates noise and grain if you bump it up. So, for that example, so this is a picture with a really high ISO. As you can see, there's much grain and noise in the photo. That's annoying. That's something you don't want to have, because that can ruin your photo. If you want a really clean and sharp image, what you want most of the time, at least I want a really crisp and nice image where I can zoom on in. If I want to zoom in my editing software, I still want to have a really nice and clean picture. So you take down your ISO as low as possible for the lighting and all the settings and effects you want to have. So then you get this. It's the same time, it's exactly the same moment, it's 10 seconds later. Then you get a really sharp image. This is what each setting does. So now you should have a little bit of understanding of what each setting is and what it does. Shutter speed, aperture and ISO. So what is the relation between the three? If you're smart, you maybe already know. But still, I'm gonna explain. So the thing is, if you increase your shutter speed, there's less light coming in. So if you have a fixed situation, like outside or right now in my room with fixed lighting, if you increase your shutter speed, so it will be faster, there's less light coming in. You need more light, so you have to drop your aperture or make it more open, let more light in, but then the background gets blurry, or you have to increase your ISO. If you have to increase your ISO, so that introduces noise, and it should be a little bit of balance, and that goes for each setting. If you open your aperture, you have to increase your shutter speed to let less light in. And if you're taking a still with a blurry background, that's reasonable good. So you can increase your shutter speed as you want. Unless you want motion blur, then you have to increase your ISO. So it's a trade-off, it's a balance between the three. That's the reason why I said in the beginning of this video, if you have no idea where your settings should be, set your camera on auto mode and take a picture and look on the settings the camera shows. And from there, just play with it a little bit. Take 10 pictures or as test photos for the environment or the person or the thing you want to photograph. Make a few photos to determine what you want and what the camera thinks it's good. The camera balances all three out to a midway. From now on, I hope you're gonna try your camera in manual mode and have a little bit of understanding on how the three settings work, and so it's not that scary anymore. So now you can play with the manual mode. So I hope you enjoyed this video, you learned something from it. If you do, leave a like, it would be a great help. Please subscribe so you won't miss any future videos. If you have any questions, leave a comment in the comment section down below. And as always, I'm gonna see you in the next video.